Hello, everybody. Welcome to Talking Pools on Tuesdays with Dan. And I'd like to start off today by saying early happy 4th of July to everyone. Hope that you've got the ability of taking at least a little bit of time off between Thursday and maybe over the weekend. This weekend, it's kind of an interesting week with 4th of July falling on a Thursday. I know there have been a lot of, in our area, in our market, a lot of celebrations this weekend before. And I know they're going to continue to be some the weekend after. So for many of us, that means a kind of a double opportunity. And I even know many of our clients that are having events on both weekends. So, we've got, typically lead ups to different holidays throughout the year that drive us, right? We got Memorial Day, 4th of July, Labor Day, certain parts of the country, Christmas. But for this year, although it's weird falling on a Thursday and it doesn't give us a typical, 3-day weekend or 2-day weekend as many of us maybe would have. I think the aspect of it adding some fuel to 2 weekends, both before and after, is kind of neat. With that, it does mean that we got to be sort of extra diligent on taking care of all those pools out there so they are ready to go for the 4th of July and any events before and after. And, with that, I know I talked last week about our routine weekly maintenance is more relative to the business side of things, I think, in terms of pricing and chemicals and all that kind of stuff. But I thought I'd maybe ask a couple of questions, and certainly send us an email, talkingpools@gmail.com, if you have anything that you can add to this, or anything that you might want to hear any of us talk about too. But with maintenance, I talked last week about how we at All Seasons handle the maintenance relative to being preventative. I don't like to be reactive to anything. I like to be preventative and try to provide an environment where there's never an opportunity for a pool to have downtime. And if that is means that we go about treating the pool a little differently by adding products. I talked about algicide weekly and non-chlorine shock weekly as preventatives, and even the aspect of borates as preventatives and things like that. What else are we doing out there in terms of the way that we service the pools, and going in really a little bit deeper than that, the ways that we get to know the pools? And for those of us that are maybe individuals out there, it might not be that critical, but I wanted to talk just a little bit today about the aspect of technology and how it can help us be more accurate, be more streamlined, be more, I don't know how to say it, take vagueness or guesswork out of it for some. So if you're working by yourself and you're doing X number of pools a day, X number a week, et cetera, you get to know the pools, probably get to know them real quickly. You learn the ins and outs of what works in this pool, what doesn't work in that pool, and every pool is unique. There are no two alike, and but we've had occurrences where we've built identical pools in neighboring yards and find that just the difference from one to the next is enough to make the exact same pool, the exact same equipment, the exact same volume of water react differently, because of the way the pool is used, because of who is using it, what is using it. Sometimes you end up with pets in a pool, or a yard full of bird feeders, and then the yard next door doesn't have any, or who knows what the case may be. So at any rate, when you're by yourself, you're kind of running your own thing. You certainly concentrate on getting them down to where you know them real quick, and you get into a routine of every week I do this here. If we've got tableted chlorinators that we're using, I put 2 tablets in this chlorinator. I leave it set at 6. The pump runs 24/7 at this speed, and that gives me perfect chlorine almost all the time. That's great. But when you get into having employees, and certainly having multiple employees and layers of staff that interact with both the homeowner and the technician and whoever else may be, and even the landscapers in many cases, I find it important that we have ways of keeping information accessible to everybody, and ways of ensuring that certain things aren't interpreted differently. And a couple of things. So I know there's some real aversion out there to different types of technology, and I'm just going to throw out what we've found to be the case in terms of water testing. Forever, and again, 37 years in the industry, Taylor test kits have been the mainstay, the go-to. That's, I know it like the back of my hand. Very, very reliable, highly sought after product for a pool professional. We used them forever. Still do. Every truck has, an FAS DPD. I forget the exact number of the kit, but you can test everything. It's a mobile lab that will give you anything that you need. A number of years ago, and I would argue it's probably been, could be as much as 7 years ago, maybe even more now, we brought in Lamont spin labs. We brought them into our retail store, and then when the mobile aspect of those devices came out, we incorporated them into our field fleet.
Join the Council for the Model Aquatic Health Code, aka CMAQ. CMAQ is a member-driven organization that keeps the Model Aquatic Health Code sustainable, current, and complete. Your expertise is needed. Learn more at cmac.org. That's cmahc.org.
And then when the mobile aspect of those devices came out, we incorporated them into our field fleet. We started off slow. Certainly having them in the retail store doing water testing for those customers walking in was a way of getting to know the product. Putting them out in the field then offered all of these other advantages, and that's kind of what I'm going to talk to today. So we have a number of technicians on the road every day that are doing maintenance at all these different properties. And when they're in a backyard testing water with a Taylor kit, inevitably there can be discrepancies between readings because of the interpretation of the user. And that goes for any kind of a color comparative type of thing. We actually have, and although this person is not in the field doing maintenance routinely, someone who's colorblind. Can see some colors, but can't see all colors. So certainly there are challenges there as to a Taylor kit and being able to get accurate numbers. Certainly the lighting and how people use the kit, and we certainly train everybody how to use the kit and how to not, you don't hold it up to the sunlight when you're comparing colors and all this kind of stuff, making sure the color comparators are always clean, that they aren't old and yellowed or stained or otherwise, I'll say disfigured in a way that you can't really read accurately to compare. But the Lamont Spin Labs really take all of that out of the picture. The user interpretation is gone. Put the spin disc in, fill it with a syringe of water, pop it in the unit, spin it up, and that photo eye is going to measure that color, do the comparison for us. It's not really a comparison it does, but measures the wavelength, blah, 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 and spit out the results. We, being Taylor test kit people forever, early on, looked with a, kind of cross-eyed at these things going, this thing can't be as good. And early on, doing manual tests, at times, we would find discrepancies between the Lamont Spin Lab and the Taylor test kit. And when those discrepancies were reported early on, we always used the rule that the Taylor readings were going to be overriding the Lamont readings. So through the years, and again, we've been using these for a number of years, we've got probably, could we own as many as 20 of these units? We've got, I think, 4 of them in our retail store, and all of them now are the mobile spin labs, even though the retail store is not mobile. We still use the mobile version of that spin lab in the store. And in the field, we've got to have easily 15 of them, if not more, in the field. So we own more than 20 because I think we've got 4, 5, 6 of them that are, I'll say, spares. And that's an important thing to note with these devices. So, at any rate, years of experience, I can't even tell you how many hundreds of thousands of tests that we've done with these devices over the years. Every year, I think we go through 15 to 18,000 discs spinning up water between the retail store and the service fleet. So, do the math, 15,000 times 7, 8 years, I'm sure, a lot of them. At any rate, what we have found through the years is this, that when we early on said, oh, the Taylor kit is giving us a different number than the Spin Lab, we're going to take that number instead. The next week out, we would find that the results of our actions caused the water to change in a way that wasn't what we were expecting. And what we boiled it down to is that Taylor kit was actually not as accurate as the Spin Lab. And as a result, the additions we did based on the Taylor kit instead of the Spin Lab threw the pool a little bit off from what we had expected. And none of these adjustments, especially in season, are huge that we're really throwing the thing out of whack, but enough to identify and say, hey, something's going on here. So a little bit of research on my part. Taylor test kits, the neat thing about this, so Taylor test kits and the Lamont Spin Labs are both tested by NSF. And NSF has accuracy ratings that they apply to these testing devices, if you will. And the Lamont Spin Lab across the board is rated at what NSF considers an L1. It's the highest accuracy rating that can be had. The Taylor test kits are, depending on the range, the free chlorine reading, for example, there are different from, top of my head, I'm going to say 0 to 1 parts per million. It has a certain accuracy. From 1 to 3, another accuracy. 3 to 10, another accuracy. Those ranges, I'm sure, are not exactly what it is, but there are multiple accuracy variances. But the Taylor test kits, most of the tests in that kit are an L3, and some of them are, if I'm not, it's been a little bit since I looked, but are even an L5. So what does that tell us? Well, the L1 being the most accurate, L3 is less, L5 is even less than that. When we have someone in the field that is performing a manual test with a Taylor kit versus what the Spin Lab says, we really can't fall on the Taylor kit and say it's more accurate, because it's not. And it's not proven, it's not more accurate as proven by these NSF tests that have been done. And beyond that, it's also proved itself to us after, again, hundreds of thousands of tests over the years, that it's not as accurate relative to real world results we've seen from additions we've made based on overriding the Lamont Spin Lab with the Taylor numbers and doing things that we thought would get us where we wanted to be and finding that they weren't. So now with that, the Lamont Spin Lab is a piece of equipment, and just like the Taylor test kit can have a user error, or something like I said, the comparator could be faded or it could be stained where you can't get a good color match, things like that. These Spin Labs are prone to having issues as well. So the reason that we've got all of these, what I called spare Spin Labs earlier, around is because we every month cycle through these units and calibrate them so that no unit is out in the field more than 4 weeks without it having been calibrated by one of our staff members back at the office, who is very well versed at doing this. It's not a big deal to calibrate them. And many of our technicians all have a calibration disc out in the field. In the event that they get somewhere and they're getting a really goofy reading, they have the ability of just field calibrating it right there. But it's a way of us having some checks and balances, ensuring that the units are coming in. We're putting through a few tests. We're calibrating them, making sure that they're clean, making sure that they're, the carrying cases are in good shape, all that kind of stuff, and then pushing them back out and cycling another one through to, sort of continue that process along. Those who use the spin labs and don't do that will run into problems. The care of the spin lab in the field, if you're going to let all kinds of dirt and debris and so forth get inside of the area where the spin disc is read, certainly the lens of the photo eye is going to be affected, and it's going to give you readings that aren't going to be accurate. The service trucks that are out there, and some of our guys are guilty of this too. I look at some of the service trucks out in the world and wonder who in their right mind would pay someone as a professional when they pull in that truck in the condition that not necessarily the outside of the truck, but the inside of the truck is in. You open doors, stuff is falling out. It's all in disarray. It takes them 15 minutes to find something on the truck because it's buried, that kind of stuff, versus a truck that you open up and it's neat and clean and orderly. So the spin labs, we have plastic carrying cases for every one between jobs. They're closed up in those cases to be moved from job to job. I don't like the spin labs actually even leaving the vehicle. I like them to stay in the vehicle, bring the water to the vehicle, do the test, go back out. I know a lot of our technicians don't do that, take it poolside. I'm okay with that. I just think that if the spin lab is treated as a very high-end electronic device, and we're not going to take it out poolside, especially in inclement weather when it's raining, or in some cases even snowing in our market, there's less chance of it having some contamination to it that's going to cause some errors with the photo eye and how it's reading. So, making sure they're kept clean, making sure that you're using the equipment in the manner in which it's intended to be used, and following all the guidelines that Lamont has out there in terms of doing it. And we have great results. So in conjunction with that now, we use Lamont's cloud-based software to be able to record all of our data and communicate with the customer. So when we spin up the water, that through an app on our phone, Bluetooth to the mobile device, goes to an app on our phone. It takes about 2 minutes total to put the water in the disc, spin it up, get the results on your app on the phone. We're into the customer account in the app on the phone when that data is brought across. Within our setup of the cloud software, and this is a nice thing about this software, and I'm not saying that Lamont is the end all be all. There are a lot of other ways you can do this kind of stuff, but the point of what I'm trying to get at is I feel the necessity of having these things to help us run our business, to help us communicate, to help us stay on top of things. So whether it's Lamont or, I haven't looked at Skimmer myself in a while, but I believe Skimmer has the ability of doing similar things. There are business softwares out there that are incorporating water testing and talking to Lamont Spin Labs or other devices that are out there that do similar things. Whatever it is, the point of this conversation here is to just say how I feel it's so important to have this stuff. So anyway, the software, again, it'll bring over the readings, but then we build out a whole list of things, tasks, if you will, that are to be performed in the backyards, and it's a checklist, and we literally can check off that we emptied baskets, that we brushed the tile, that we vacuumed the pool, that we filled the chlorinator, that we changed an ORP setting. So we have settings that when we have chemical metering systems in the backyards, which most of our pools that we've built residentially have Pentair's and Telechem on them. My own pool has it as well. Great device for water balance. It controls ORP and pH. So in those pools that are so equipped with those things, we'll have an indication as to what was the ORP set point and the pH set point. What was the ORP reading when you got there? and the pH reading when you got there. If any adjustments were made, then there's another entry that's made for what the change to the setting was when you left, basically. So I showed up, the ORP was set to 650. It was reading 640. I changed it to 680, kind of a thing. Or the pH was set to 7.6. It was reading 7.6, but for some reason I wanted to change it to 7.5. So I've got all of that information put into the system and recorded for us. All of the chemical now, even though Lamont has multiple discs and there's certainly varying costs to them, and I want to say, don't quote me on this, but I think we're paying somewhere between $2.50 and $3 a disc right now for a disc that does everything: free chlorine, total chlorine, pH, alkalinity, calcium hardness, cyanuric acid, borates, copper, iron, manganese, I believe, and I think I'm missing something. But it's pretty much their full-fledged disc. The only thing that disc doesn't do is phosphates. If we test for phosphates, I believe that disc is a trade-off. It adds phosphates but takes away the borates, I think. And we do have those discs on the truck if there's a need to test phosphates or someone thinks there's a need to test phosphates. Phosphates, if we do suspect a problem with it, we do have tailored phosphate test kits on the truck that we'll use. And but we do have the discs that if we wanted to then validate those readings with the disc for whatever reason, we've got them to be able to do it. So at any rate, $2.50, $3, somewhere in there a disc for this pretty full-fledged test analysis. Now, I know a lot of us are, you don't have to test calcium every week. You don't have to test stabilizer every week. You don't have to blah, 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 blah. But in my mind, by doing that, and this is the beauty of these systems and the record keeping, if we happen to have, over the course of a month, 2 or 3 different technicians at the same property, they can see that history. And they can see that if the stabilizer level was at 45 3 weeks ago, the next week it was at 30, this week they're out there and it's at 20, well, something's going on there, right? Everybody should be saying, yeah, we suspect there's a leak in the pool. Andrea will tell you that. She's got a new business, I think. Can't remember what she called it now. Shoot, Andrea, I just blew a leak detection, leak expectation or something. Anyway, just ways that you identify that pool probably is losing water or has something going on that way based on the chemical levels. So by having the historical values and it being multiple technicians, it doesn't matter that it's multiple technicians because the third guy out or gal knows 2 weeks ago what was done, knows a month ago, knows 6 weeks ago what was done. They know what was done the last time we were there. And it gives us the ability of being a better company because of all of this. The results of the spin lab are more accurate, again, as I described. The results are more streamlined. We're taking user error out of it for the most part. The other part of it is any additions that are done are built off of parameters that All Seasons has determined because we built out the back end of this. So when it tells you what to do, which is a nice thing about it, Taylor Test Kit, you certainly got the Taylor book, which is awesome. And most of us are very, very well educated and knowledgeable to know, when we're needing to put in whatever the product is and how much product to put in and so on and so forth. Again, when you get into having multiple employees and trying to ensure that everybody is doing it the same way, and that's, I think, the critical part. So there are as many ways to treat a pool as there are technicians out there who would treat it. And it's not necessarily that a certain way is right, a certain way is wrong. There are just different ways to achieve a good result without doing the same thing. We certainly balance everything to LSI when we're out in the backyard, and there are many different ways you can balance to LSI. On my own pool, my water is a community well. It's actually relatively soft, so to speak. The water out of my tap has a calcium hardness of about 150, 160. Some areas where that we service, we have calcium hardnesses that come out of the tap at 400 or 500, including at our office where we have 2 in-ground pools fully functioning on display in front of our retail store, along with tons of hot tubs and everything else. So there are different approaches, right, to balancing LSI depending on things that you're given that you can't change. I mean, my pool, yeah, I can put, and I do put calcium increaser in there to bring the hardness up, but our pools at our retail store on display, if we are putting water in with calcium of 500 or sometimes even higher than that coming out of our well, it's a private well, there's nothing we can do to get rid of that calcium, right? So we're going to keep the pH a little bit lower, keep the alkalinity a little bit lower. We're going to do things to make sure we're in LSI in a balanced state that are different than a pool that has a calcium hardness of 200 or 250. So back to the point of there are many different ways that a individual technician may decide to treat a pool. And the last thing we want to do is have homeowners seeing things that are done that they then start to question. Well, why, this, why that, why the other thing? With these low mount spin labs and the cloud-based software that has all of these additions built essentially by those of us at All Seasons that know how we want things to be handled, it gives those technicians in the field then the direction to go that makes it more unanimous across the board. So it doesn't matter whether it's technician A, B, C, or D that's out there, they're treating the pool in a very, very similar state. Now, there still can be some minor variances with that, but it streamlines and sort of flattens the curve of how pool water treatment is handled through all of our clients. So, the use of that technology in terms of the accuracy being better than a drop kit, and that's NSF testing, as well as I said, years and hundreds of thousands of tests that we've done with these devices. Ensuring that your technology, the spin labs, are kept up and current and clean and calibrated and all the rest of it. Having a system that records the data across the board, all of the readings that you got from your test, as well as anything you did while you were in the backyard, what products you added, any changes you made to the system. Oh, this week I put 4 tablets in the chlorinator and increased from 6 to 7 because, it's going to be 95 degrees all week, where last week I only put 3 tablets in and had it, down at 6, or whatever the case is. ORP, pH, all these different ways that you can change things, having that recorded so that it's there historically for someone else to refer to. And then the other thing that this system does for us, and I know Skimmer and all these other, softwares, there are a lot of them out there, but as soon as we're done, an email is sent to the homeowner as to what was done. So, and it includes a picture of the pool to show that we cleaned it and all that kind of stuff. But they get all of the information. The checklist is there. Any of the chemical parameters are there. Anything we added is listed on that. So it gives them a one-stop, kind of shop of what we did. It also helps to alleviate those homeowners that are like, your guy hasn't been here in 2 weeks. Well, no, he has, because you got the emailed report and it has a picture, and the picture is not the same picture. It's different every time, and so on and so forth. We have our system actually set up to go a step further. So every one of those reports that gets emailed to the customer also gets emailed to a staff member back in the office. And that's another check and balance for us. So those staff members that receive those emails are going through and looking at what was done, ensuring that everything looks to be in step with how All Seasons believes these pools are to be handled. If it seems that something was done that was not correct, then it's forwarded on to, management, who has conversations with the technicians and digs into why did you do this instead of doing this type of thing. So it gives us the ability of policing, if you will, the technicians that are out in the field and trying to ensure that the ultimate goal of our customers being taken care of at an extremely high level and having a pool that they open the door, walk out, and jump in, and they don't have to worry about it, is what they're getting. So all these things tied into a package, it certainly comes with some cost, right? And although we are a Chicago market, a Midwest snowbelt market, and we are able to capitalize on, I wouldn't say capitalize, but we need to charge a higher rate for our services. As I said, we're basically $125 a visit plus chemicals, as compared to many parts of the country that are significantly less than that and often even include chemicals. It just makes it much, much easier to validate what we're doing because of how we're doing it. And when we talk to homeowners about, hey, this is what we're going to do, this is what you're going to get, this is what, we're trying to manage your expectations, so forth. But again, part of that $125 a visit is we do have a $3 spin disc and a basically $1,000 spin lab in every backyard when we're doing these things. And if need be, you're spinning it up a second time for whatever reason, if it so demands it. So there's cost to that. But again, it is easily validated with the high level of professionalism that we're putting out there for our homeowners. So some of you in markets where you are struggling to, I'll say, differentiate yourself and to try to raise the bar in terms of what you're charging in that, this could be a good way to market yourself. Get into some of these types of things if you're not already doing it that might set you apart from somebody else. Although we haven't done it yet, there is the ability with this system to have our homeowners actually connect to the same database and using test strips from Lamont, do tests in their backyard with an app, plug their parameters in. I think it may actually take a picture to get the results. I'm not positive of that though. And have it tell them the same steps that we would tell them if they came in our store or if our technician is in the backyard. The beauty of it is then it also, well, a few things. One, if we're telling them to add products, we're telling them to add the products that we sell. So, that's kind of nice that they'll hopefully come and be buying our products if they're testing in their backyard. But it also lets us see that they're actually doing it because the data is all kept with our data. So we can see that they used a test strip 3 days ago and now they're in the store with a bottle of water, or now our technician is out there doing something for them. So it's just a little bit, well, it's more data, right? That's how Google and Facebook and everyone makes their money, is on data. It's more data that we have that becomes useful in many different ways. So at any rate, I hope this gives you a little bit of food for thought. And I certainly want to wish everybody again a very happy 4th of July. Please be safe. Hopefully you're able to take the day off and maybe recoup a little bit. Enjoy some adult beverages, as they say, and try to come back to work after the 4th of July holiday with all of your fingers intact. So thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you again next week.